Joined by one of our favorites and a guest that makes it feel a little bit more like Friday. VolQuest's and On Three's Brent Hubbs joining us here on the show. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. Hope you guys are well. This show took a real step up in caliber this morning. So not because I'm on, but we got Red Brian on and Ramones and Parts Unknown. So we're doing well this morning.
Well, he's loafing, so somebody had to pick up the slack, I guess.
It is crazy. Brett, every time he goes on vacation, the Pittsburgh Steelers do something insane, and they traded for Nashville native Jalen Ramsey this time. So we just know every time Ramon is out, the Steelers are going to do something wild.
Well, maybe he's the reason why. Maybe they're doing wild things. I mean, maybe he's the guy. Maybe he's running. He's the wizard behind the curtain.
He's the de facto general manager behind Omar Khan. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, Brett, while he's been out, Tennessee has also added a handful of players here, and you can't just count on one hand the amount that Tennessee has added for Josh Heupel and Tennessee football. Starting with the commits from yesterday, Brent, and the Mississippi teammates from Jackson, Mississippi, TJ White at linebacker, Darian Albert at D-line. Starting with TJ White, Brent, just how positive is the outlook for Tennessee at inside linebacker right now? With some of the guys they added in last year's class, now with TJ Watt so highly ranked, just how good do you feel about that position with him a part of it now as well moving forward?
Well, you certainly like the upside in the future, and the potential depth there. Now, we all know we live in a day and age in a world where keeping everybody happy and keeping everybody on your roster is a whole different thing. But, their numbers at linebacker need to increase. Their numbers at linebacker are not great. I like them at linebacker this year if they stay healthy. I don't like them at linebacker if they get hurt because they just don't have enough depth there. So I think, when you look at what they did last year, you look at what's coming in, and TJ White, I think that they know what they want in terms of physical traits, the type of linebacker that they're looking for. They're recruiting to that specific type of body and have an identity of what they want there. And I think that's good. William Edge's done a good job at that position and identifying and understanding really what he wants. And they've gone out and gotten them. And I'm curious to see what those two young guys look like this fall. We didn't get to see them in the spring because they were having shoulder surgeries. Which is common for high school linebackers, it seems like. But I do like the upside of that group, particularly with TJ White. I think TJ White's athletic. I think he can run in space. I think he plays physical. I think he's got natural leadership skills and traits about him. He's a vocal guy. I think there's a lot of things about him that William Edge likes and everybody around the country like. That's why he's highly regarded.
And his teammate, Darian Albert, as well, joining the fray there. Brent, this is not just a guy you take because you want TJ Watt. It's not a Nash Nance situation from back in the day of Tennessee football because you wanted his teammate. What can you tell us about Darian Albert? I knew I'd get you. You probably didn't think you were going to get a Nash Nance shout-out on the show this morning.
That's a great pull. I mean, when you beat out the Ivy League schools for a quarterback, I mean, it's a big deal, right? It just happened that Rick Rodgers was coming with him. It really worked out well for everybody.
Rick Rodgers, wow.
Yeah, it really worked out well. So, I think with Darian, that's one of those guys where you go and you watch TJ White play and you go, man, that guy makes plays up front. And then you go and you watch him, in the weight room and basketball and different things that he does. And you're like, I like him. Then you go watch him in spring. Guys all over the place. And the more you watched him, the more you liked him. And I think for Rodney Garner, he plays vertical. He likes to play vertical upfield. He's got some pass rushing skills. He's heavy-handed. I think they like the size and the frame that he has. He's kind of a tailor-made inside guy. A lot of schools in the SEC liked him, LSU and others. I mean, the biggest concern was distance from home. And would Mississippi State, in the end, be the winner because of proximity? And then he canceled the visit to Mississippi State that last weekend in June, and you're like, okay, this one's over. That's Tennessee. You had a real feeling it was Tennessee when he left from his official visit. Parents were kind of like, yeah, we're done. And you're like, wait a minute, you're done or are you done? Type deal. And they're like, oh, no, we're done with this visit. And, he's got one more, but we're not sure if I'm going to go on. It may just be him. And you're like, oh, okay. And I think Tennessee did a great job with the official visit. And I think he felt like he fit in well with Rodney Garner and the rest of the defensive linemen in that room, like his upside. And the one thing I like about Rodney Garner's room and what he's done a great job of, and really you're seeing it in the defensive side of the ball, everybody follows suit. You're seeing the linebackers coaches play those freshmen early. You're seeing him play more young guys in the secondary. Rodney Garner's never in a complete rebuild situation because he's playing guys as freshmen because he's not redshirting anybody, right? Like, he's playing those guys enough that they get their feet wet and understand where they are. They're getting 10, 12, 15 snaps a game in some cases, so that when you get to year 2 and you lose your seniors like you did this past year, you don't feel like, oh, geez, man, what growing pains you're going to have in that group. You feel like you got guys ready to go. Come this time next year, you're going to feel much better about Hobbs and Isaiah Campbell and Ethan Utley and David Schnell. And then after that, you're going to feel good about where Darion Albert is and those guys. He does a really good job developing by playing freshmen that allows them to not be in a full rebuild situation. I love the way that he's managed that room, and I think Darion Albert will fit in well.
Let's stay on defense, Brent, and let's talk about a guy just down the road from me at Webb School in Bell Buckle, Joel Wyatt. He postpones his commitment date. So the questions to you are, what prompted the delay, and does Tennessee still see him as an edge?
Well, I mean, I think Tennessee has seen him as an edge, basically throughout the recruiting process. I don't think Joel Wyatt sees himself as an edge. He just finished the Rivals 5-Star Challenge at safety, performed very well at that challenge. Feels like he's a guy who can play more in space and less, off the edge or at the line of scrimmage. I think that's part of why you see him delay his announcement. Some other schools, Oklahoma just recently offered because of what he did at the 5-Star Challenge. And I think he just wanted to take a moment, kind of catch his breath and look at this thing. And we'll see where Tennessee goes with it. I mean, I think that, he wants an opportunity to play somewhere other than edge first, and feels like he's good enough to play, in the back end or linebacker or whatever. I think he feels like he can play safety. Now, what's his body going to ultimately do in college? I don't know. I mean, we've all seen guys who were high school safeties that ended up being, linebackers or ended up being defensive ends and whatever. So, your body's naturally going to grow in this day and age of nutrition and everything else. Putting on weight is not a challenge for people anymore. So what does Wyatt's body ultimately do? We'll find out. But I think that he wants an opportunity to play in open space on defense first and foremost. And we'll see what that looks like with Tennessee and kind of where it goes from there. I think because of the 5-Star Challenge and how he performed there, I think he just decided to wait and sort of see where things were shaking out and sort of reset a little bit here over the course of the next few weeks, and hopes to have a decision. I think he would like to have something done before the start of his senior year, but we'll see.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's on 3, our guest. Brent in East Tennessee and Chattanooga, Canadian-born DB Jamian Theodore commits yesterday as well from Baylor. Unless you're a Macaulay fan, this Baylor pipeline has got to be pretty good for Tennessee at this point. Gabe Osinda, obviously the big tackle committing as well, and he's been in the boat for quite some time now. How beneficial is this Baylor pipeline for Tennessee, Brent, as one of the top programs now, if not maybe clicking on all cylinders more than anybody else, other than maybe their crosstown rivals, Macaulay? Just how big of a benefit is this for Tennessee with the level of football they're playing over there right now?
Well, I mean, I think Chattanooga, private school football in Chattanooga is outstanding.
Yeah.
And I think you want to go in and recruit all those private schools. But certainly I think you look at Baylor and what they've done with that Canadian pipeline that started back in COVID when Canada wasn't doing any sports, and a bunch of those kids came to Baylor and Baylor took them, and now all of a sudden they're getting a handful of them every year. And I tell you what, Rhett, you would know this. You start looking around in the National Football League, there's quite a few Canadians playing in the National Football League right now that played college ball in the United States, or maybe they played their senior year of high school in the U.S. after being in Canada. I mean, there are some good players coming out of Canada, not just at Baylor, but around the country. And, Theodore's a guy who Tennessee had to beat out Wisconsin and some northern schools for him. They like his length. They like where he's at physically, what he can grow into. Osinda is a guy who's just, good, great day in the morning. Yeah. That guy, he went from a 3-star to a 5-star in a hurry. And just a really good player on the offensive line. So it's important to win down there. I think this staff's done a good job in Chattanooga. There was some there was some restoration in the state of Tennessee to work on from the couple of previous coaching staffs. One staff, prior to Pruitt, didn't want to recruit Memphis. Then they didn't really want to recruit Chattanooga. Pruitt and them didn't recruit a whole lot down there. This staff's done a pretty good job working the entire state of Tennessee, kind of getting the relationships back where you need. And I think in this day and age, you got to recruit your state. I mean, if you're going to go to 105 scholarships at some point and you're going to start, quote, taking some chances on some guys, you're probably going to do it on in-state kids. And you better have those relationships. And I think Tennessee's done a good job with that, particularly in Chattanooga with the private school stuff.
Well, Brent, every year there's at least one 5-star that we feel like we're asking weekly questions to you and Austin about. This year, there's a couple of them between Savion Hyder and Tristan Keys, and interesting recruitments that continue there. The David Sanders is of 2025, if you will. Any updates there on either of those two guys? I know Tristan Keys was taken to social media, as these guys love to do, and congratulating a lot of these new Tennessee commits this week.
Well, what's interesting is the approach from these two guys are 180-degree opposite of each other. Savion Hyder doesn't talk to anybody, doesn't want to do any interviews, doesn't want to tell anybody anything, doesn't update anybody on his recruitment, doesn't talk after visits, doesn't provide any kind of social media update, none of that stuff. He is very much, I'll let you know when I've made my decision, and I'm not really going to talk about it because I don't want people to infer some quote or take something out of context here or whatever. I want to do this very privately with my parents and do this thing the right way. In his mind, what's the right way? Tristan Keys, if there's a microphone there, he's going to talk into it. And it's not an ego thing. It's that he's just very comfortable talking about how he feels in that moment. And what he says that week may be totally different the next week, depending on where he's been and who he's been around. So two very different approaches. I think Hyder's going to do something. I think he's talked about September. I don't know that maybe he does something in August, but I think it's probably September when he does something. Feels like it's Tennessee, Michigan. And if anybody says they know where he's going, they're guessing at this point because he is not sharing anything. With Keys, you're trying to read all the tea leaves, right? I mean, he's talking a lot of Tennessee love. He committed to LSU out of the blue, kind of. Where's LSU with it? There's some coaching ties to him with the LSU staff, which hurts Tennessee. I think he really likes the Tennessee staff and the players in the offense. So we'll see. I mean, obviously he's closer to Baton Rouge from his hometown. NIL is going to be a factor. All of that's, an important part of his recruitment. I think that one can kind of be a roller coaster here for a bit before we know anything on Keys. I think Hyder's going to announce at some point. He's going to do it, and that's going to be the end of it with Savion Hyder. I don't think he'll talk about it much anymore. He'll do one little press conference and commit, and then the next time you talk to him, he'll be in a college uniform somewhere.
Brent, on the baseball front, if you are a pitcher in the transfer portal, Tennessee and LSU should always, I feel like, be the top two options if you've got the aspirations of winning a national title. And that was the case for Rutgers starter Landon Mack, who Tony Vitello gets over LSU. Just how much buzz is there around this guy already as kind of the next big Tennessee transfer pitcher? And how much concern do you think Tony Vitello has about some of the roster turnover in his pitching rotation specifically, and some of that forced by the House settlement and a lot of the roster number changes in college baseball?
Well, nobody's really talking about it nationally, but, this is hard. You're going from 51 to 34.
Right.
You're taking 17 guys on your roster and going, hey, man, you don't have a spot. And some of those guys are returning guys that you were developmental players you're working on, but, hey, we don't have a spot for you. We got to move on. And so it's hard for college baseball coaches right now. Tennessee's obviously moved on from some younger pitchers, some developmental guys, because they need impact guys. They've gone into the portal. You mentioned the kid from Rutgers who is going to be a weekend starter, big arm. I think he's looking at Chase Dolander. He's looking at Liam Doyle. He's looking at, Garrett Crochet and all these guys in Major League Baseball that are throwing right now that came through Frank Anderson's program and felt like it was the best fit for him. Chance to win big, throw and perform on the biggest stage each and every day. Doesn't have to deal with the weather as much as he would in New Jersey and in the Big Ten early in the year. So I think he feels like this gives him a much better chance to really grow his game. And it's a big get for Tennessee because Tennessee's looking for weekend starters. They have to. And so that was a huge priority for Tennessee. They're not done. in the portal. I think they're still looking. And, they're trying to figure out, okay, what happens if this guy goes in the draft? Where do we go next? So they're trying to keep some portal guys warm and keep them ready, and then trying to figure out how many spots do we have, because are we going to lose 2 high school kids to the draft? Are we going to lose 4 high school kids to the draft? Are we going to lose any transfers to the draft? That's the other part of the baseball thing that's just a mess right now. I mean, you're sitting here, you have the transfer portal, you're cutting your roster by 17, and oh, by the way, the draft's coming up.
Right.
Well, they could take some of your signing class, and guys that you signed never end up on your campus anyway, and you've got to replace them with somebody. And oh, by the way, we got to get it all done by the end of the month, because guys are going to go to school and you got to get back to work, and they're looking for a place to play, and they're getting the earth's getting bigger in the window for them for finding a school. So you have a lot happening here over the next 3 or 4 weeks in baseball. It's really hard. LSU's playing catch up. I mean, they just won a national title. That's your focus. Now all of a sudden you're looking at, they've had a bunch of guys go in the portal. Now they're trying to retool some things with their pitching staff. They've got to figure out some things in the infield, and they've got to trim their roster by 17 spots. So it's hard right now for baseball. I mean, it's that sport of all the sports in the House settlement, they got caught in the crosshairs when the settlement came about, because football is going to go to 105 in January. Okay, basketball's adding a couple of spots. Nobody's cutting like baseball's cutting. And by the way, baseball, you have to do it now, immediately, bam. It just the settlement's here. Now you got to do your roster adjustment. Football, you got 6 months to figure it out. Basketball, you got several months to figure out what you're going to do. Baseball, you got to do it right now. That's hard.
It absolutely is. These are still students. You make up a great point that they actually do have to go to class, which is a wild part of the process that we often forget.
They have to be enrolled in class.
There you go.
Let's be brutally honest this morning.
Yeah,
okay, they've got to be enrolled in class.
It is funny, Brent. I've talked to and talking to some of the coaches up there that I do, and doing some of the SEC Plus stuff. Like, it is incredible post-COVID how many professors have just been like, wait, I can do online class just forever, and this still works. Like, it's so funny talking to coaches that are like, I don't have to worry about my athletes going to classes as much, because all these professors just want to do it online anyway. It's incredible how much COVID changed all that stuff.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I mean, there are a number of student athletes at colleges around the country, Tennessee being one of them. They don't step foot in the class.
Right.
They just do everything online. Now, there's an advantage to that, because you don't lose your time, because most of these stuff, it's work at your own pace type deal. There's not necessarily a set time that you meet for your class. The downside of that is they don't get out of the bubble,
Right.
I mean, it's like, Nico, for example. I mean, Nico was never walking around campus. That guy came to the complex, he practiced, he went online classes, and that was it. He went to one building on campus most every day, and that was it. That was the only part of campus he was ever a part of. So it's disappointing in some regards, because some guys don't get the full college experience, because it's just like, hey, man, I can do it from my apartment, and then I spend the other 10 hours of my day in the football complex watching film and lifting weights and doing whatever I need to do in there. And that's my college experience, which, it should be a little bit more than that, but that's just where we're at in the world these days.
Running out the clock and goofing off in the Thornton Center in our required student-athlete study hour. Some of my best memories at UT. Incredible how much it's changed. VolQuest's Brent Hubbs, our guest here this morning on the show. Brent, have a happy 4th. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Happy 4th. Everybody be safe.
Yes, sir. Brent Hubbs with us here this morning, brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life.